Let us see how the size of a material influences its properties in case of metals and semiconductors, which are very interesting for a lot of applications, and I'll be talking about the application relevant to my research area. And in case of metals, typically you take noble metals and semi-noble metals like gold, platinum and silver. And if you take silver and gold, you cut down the size to nanoscale, less than 100 nanometer, then you start seeing beautiful colors. I can make silver in various colors by reducing the size into the nanometer dimensions. You take example of silver, we usually work with silver, that is nano silver, with the particle dimensions of 10 to 100 nanometers, depending on what application we want. And the silver, when it comes to nanoscale, especially less than 20 or 10 nanometer, it starts showing various colors. So depending on the size and shape, you can change the color of the material, which is very beautiful. For example, even in the old days, the glasses, colored glasses on the Christian churches, for example, the glass are made with nanoparticles embedded into the glass. When the glass is melted, you put small concentration of gold, for example, and when it solidifies, this gold distributes and then creates small particles, which gives the color. The color is because of the property that is known as surface plasmon resonance. So that is very well known due to the conduction electrons of the metals, especially it happens in metals. A physicist can explain much better way. Then we don't use the color part of that one for our advantage, but the particle size part, which is very small and then very high active surface area, and that we'll put on the textile fabrics and then showcase that it gives beautiful properties in terms of antibacterial action, because a metal like silver, for example, and silver kills bacteria, that is very well known process, but when it's in nanoparticle size, then it gives excellent antibacterial killing without needing of much material. So the textiles coated with nano silver, less than 1 weight%, you don't even know how much silver is there when you take the fabric, and then that silver gives a lot of application. For example, you take your socks, which gives smell when you wear few times, but when you put nano silver with a very small concentration, that doesn't stink because it kills bacteria, which creates the smell because of the eating away the organics there in your sweat. Now, the effect of size on the semiconductors is very interesting, and when the size comes down in the nano regime of a semiconductor, the band gap widens because of the size decrease, and then it comes closer to your atomic discrete energy levels. So this property can be exploited for a lot of applications, and this is property is known as size quantum effect. And the band gap widening of semiconductor is seen in a lot of materials, and especially in case of quantum dots semiconductors. The widening of band gap is very clearly seen in small band gap semiconductors like cadmium sulfide, selenide, even silicon, but it is not very clearly seen in high band gap semiconductor like titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, because those semiconductors do not absorb any visible light because they are already in the UV range, so they are transparent to visible light. Whereas the semiconductors, which are also called quantum, so-called quantum dots of cadmium sulfide, selenide, these are all low band gap semiconductor. With small decrease in the size within the nano regime, the band gap widens and the color changes both the absorption and emission properties because of the widening of band gap. And the quantum dot concept has come from this property, where when you have the size of a material, especially these visible light semiconductor falling into this regime, where its electron hole generated due to photoexcitation, the electron hole pair is called exciton, and the distance between these two is called exciton Bohr radius. And if the size of the material, that is quantum dot, comes close to this exciton Bohr radius, then it gives excellent properties. So the so-called quantum dot light emitting diode quantum dot concept itself is a very fascinating topic in the area of physics and electronics, and then the concept of quantum dot is already coming to technology level in the form of quantum dot light emitting diode displays. So that is one of the applications. There are so many applications for them, both in the medical, biomedical applications and other optoelectronic applications. And another property of semiconductor that depends on the size is the scattering of light. And the light scattering is minimized when the size comes down to nanoresin. For example, in UV sunscreen lotions, the color of the white color, what you see when the sports people use this sunscreen lotion, the sunscreen lotion contains moisturizer and some of the semiconductor, high band gap semiconductor particles, especially zinc oxide. All the zinc oxide is transparent to visible light, but still it scatters the light because of its size and micron size, which is used in your sunscreen lotion. That's why when the sports people use sunscreen lotion, it looks in white color, and then it is very difficult to identify when you apply everywhere on the body. But if one wants to use transparent sunscreen lotion with the same zinc oxide, what you do is you reduce the size to nano, maybe 10 nanometers, 20 nanometer, 30 nanometer, and this nanoscale is far less than the visible light spectrum, that is 400 to 800 nanometer. So the scattering losses will come down, and then it will be quite transparent. So now the new technology of cosmetics is coming with nanoparticles embedded sunscreen lotions for transparent sunscreen. So I have mentioned in this episode the surface plasmon absorption and the particle size effect on the antibacterial action, and the band gap widening in semiconductors, which results in a lot of applications, including the quantum dots, LEDs, and the scattering of the light that is abated because of the size reduction, which has influence in the positive influence in the cosmetics. In the next episode, I am going to talk on nano composites, where with small amount of nanomaterial into the bulk material will show tremendous improvement and performance in the properties.